All right, friends. Well, it's Curtis Robinson, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between being a CEO and being a therapist. So, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I'm just going to show you the difference. So, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to pull up this calculator. We're going to talk just briefly, okay? So, I assume you can see that on my screen. And I kind of want us to take it from the top. Assuming that you've watched my first two videos, the intro video and the what I can do for you or the how I can help you video, you probably will remember that I talked a little bit about this in the second video. And let's just do the math, because I know some of you didn't do the math when we talked about it the first time. Let's do it very simple. So let's say, for example, that the average reimbursement is going to be, let's just say $150. So that's 1 hour's worth of work for a therapist. Okay, and that $150, it could be more if it's Blue Cross Blue Shield. There may be 160, 170 bucks, sometimes 180 bucks, depending on where you live and depending on which insurance company they have. Or it also could be a cash payment, so 1 hour of therapy at 150 bucks is a pretty good day. And assuming that you are running a business where you've hired some employees, this $150 could be your pay for that 1 hour. So again, let's say that you get $150, and let's just say you've got all reimbursements and all cash payments of $150. That's unlikely. United is obviously going to be less, and Better might be more, Blue Cross Blue Shield might be more, and so on and so forth. You might even have a cash payment special at $99, but let's just say 150 bucks. So let's say that you're going to get this $150 every hour you work, and you're a therapist in your company. Not the CEO, you're the therapist. Here's $150 for you. Let's say that you're going to multiply that times, let's just say you're going to do 30 hours. That's $4,500 a week. Not bad money. All right, so that's what you make if you do 30 hours. Let's multiply that times 50 weeks, assuming you're going to take 2 weeks of vacation. Well, you're looking at $225,000. I mean, that's not bad money for you. Now, let's assume that you've still got other expenses that you've got to take out of. You've got taxes you got to take out for, and you've got your mortgage or your rent, you've got lights, you've got phone, you've got other things that's going to come out of that. But $225,000 seems like a pretty good amount of money. I would tell you that if you're making $150,000, that's pretty good. If you're making $225,000, that is great. That is good money. I'll tell you that a lot of psych nurses and probably a new psychiatrist, they're going to start off at $225,000. So kind of think about that. Maybe you're thinking, ooh, I'm going to make all my money being a psych nurse or being a psychologist. $225,000 is what I'm looking for. Not bad. I want you guys to keep that number. I'm going to write it down to $225,000. Let's go ahead and write that down. And that's, again, if you're doing 30 hours worth of work at 150 and you still got things to take out of that, right? Let's clear all of that. Now, let's say, for example, that you've got just 10 employees, okay? Let's say that $225,000 per year is, let's go ahead and divide that by 12, and that's the monthly rate, right? And let's divide that by 2, assuming you pay them on the 1st and the 15th. Well, you're going to be paying them about $9,000, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $9,000 if they got 100% of it. But probably you're going to keep 50%. Let's just say that it's going to be 50%. Let's divide that by 2. And that's $4,687. Not too bad, right? That's your employee's cut at 50%, and that's your cut at 50%. Just kind of give you a feel for that. Now, again, let's say that we multiply that by your 10 employees, because you've done what I've told you. You've hired the right employees, and you've gotten them the clients. This is always the trick. I'm going to teach you how to do that later. But you've got 10 employees. They're able to see 30 clients per week, and they're going to do that for a pay period. You're looking at $46,000. That's not too bad, okay? Now, when we go back to that $225,000 that you could be making, let's go ahead and do this math, right? We're going to multiply that times 2, because this is what you're going to make every month. Let's multiply that times 12. And that's what you're making right there. You're at the $1 million mark. Remember I said we're going to make you $1 million practice. You're looking at roughly 10 therapists. It's not very difficult to do. Now this number could be higher in the event that you have psychiatrists and psychologists who might also be doing testing or medicine and so forth. But this is just the basic idea of how the math works out. Let's start back over, right? Let's double check our math. I think this is helpful, right? Again, let's go back and let's say it's just $100. Maybe reimbursements are low. Maybe that's your cash pay price. And you're going to multiply that $100 times 30 appointments per week times 50 weeks. It's $150,000, right? Then we're going to multiply that times your 10 employees. That looks like 1.5 million, right? And now remember, we're going to give 50% of that away, so let's divide it by 2. We're going to give it to the therapists in order for them to get payroll, right? So you're looking at $750,000. That's not bad money, even if the reimbursement rate is lower. So all you need is just a couple other therapists in order to make that money. Now again, the most you can make, this is what you're bringing in by having good employees. The most you could have made with the higher reimbursement rate in 30 was $225,000. Remember that? So let's subtract $225,000 from that, because you don't have time to make all that money. You're the CEO. You still got $500,000 a year that you're bringing in. You should have 10 therapists in each clinic if the clinic serves a community of about 60,000 people. So for example, Conway, Arkansas, North Little Rock, Arkansas are in the 60,000 people population. So kind of think of it like that, okay? That'll kind of give you an idea of the money that we can be making. All right. The last part that I kind of want to tell you is that it's not just about money. It really is about hours. So the CEO, generally speaking, is going to need to be doing about 30 hours a week on CEO business, okay? If you decide you also want to be a full-time therapist, the minimum work you're going to do is going to be about 60 hours. All right, there is a chance that you could make that $225,000 we talked about earlier. Plus, you could potentially be bringing in that 500 or so thousand, or maybe even 1 point something million. You could really help your business. But again, if you're at 1.2 million from your therapists, and again, that's gross, that's not net, plus your 225, that's a pretty good amount of money, but it's insignificant compared to how it's going to affect you as a human being. You will have time that you're going to need to unwind, to sleep, to rest, to get away from work, to take a vacation, to spend with your children, to spend with your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, to spend with your other family members. Remember that the work-life balance is something that every single therapist pushes. Every psychologist, psychiatrist, every counselor, every social worker is going to tell their clients, you know, don't kill yourself. You will be sorry if you don't take time to unwind. You will get sick, right? You will have behavioral health issues yourself. So these are real things that I kind of want you to think about. The calculator doesn't lie. This is one of the things that I want you guys to think about. One of the things that I want you to make a decision on. Make some notes today. Do the math yourself. And you're going to need to let me know what your results were, where you are. How many questions do you have? Maybe one big question. Maybe it's 5 questions. You and I are going to need to meet. We're going to need to chat. We're going to need to discuss those questions. And hopefully you're going to get not only the answers that you want to hear, but you're going to get the answers that you need to hear. Not everybody's going to coach you in the same way that I will. I'm going to shoot you straight every single time. If you say, Curtis, I know I can make 60 hours a week. I'm good at 60 hours a week, 30 hours for the business and 30 hours as a therapist. This is what I want to do. I'm not going to tell you you can't do it. What I am going to tell you is that it's hard. It's hard to get up that early in the morning and get things rock and roll and be the first person in the office. It's hard to make all those meetings that you're going to need the business-to-business meetings, the networking meetings, the staff meetings, and then ultimately do lunch and learns and the other things that a CEO needs to do while you're trying to have a steady schedule of recurring clients who are going to want to see you at least weekly. It's very difficult to do that. Not impossible. Good scheduling will help you, but it's difficult. I wasn't willing to do that. And there were a number of other businesses that I helped coach. The people that I talked to did not do that kind of work. I have a friend of mine, and he was in Tennessee, and he was running a business similar to mine. And when we talked, he was telling me that mostly he only sees the high net worth clients. He only takes cash. So basically, he might be, instead of making $100 or $150 an hour, he's making the bigger bucks, the $200 per hour from these high net worth clients that were willing to pay more for individual therapy, very specific to their needs. Okay, so they weren't really seeing everyone. The person with, a more typical income with a more typical condition like, we all have anxiety, we all have depression. These people might have business stress that's killing them that they need to talk to you about. You could help those people per se. But for the most part, he was doing CEO work. In fact, his wife was doing the CFO work. So they had him as the CEO, her as the CFO. Imagine how bad that relationship would be if they didn't take time to be together. They would both be terribly stressed about work. All they'd do all day was work. Then they'd come home and talk about work. It would be very difficult without having a good work-life balance. I had a friend of mine who was in Texas, and she was always talking about her schedule. She was a therapist, loved to do therapy, and somehow she managed about 50 hours a week. And she was not married. A wonderful woman and had great friendships, and I loved seeing her when I could see her. My family loved her, but the bottom line is that I coached her, and I said, hey, listen, the best advice I can give you is that you're either going to be a great CEO or a great therapist. It's very difficult to be both. She was one of the exceptions. She was able to do both. She didn't have a lot of time for other things, and she did call me frequently, and we talked. I did coaching with her. We talked extensively about the difficulties of managing her practices. By the way, she was doing the same kind of work I was doing, and she had other practices bigger than mine. She did extremely well, and I feel very grateful that she considers me her coach, and ultimately I was able to help her along the way. The third client was in Atlanta, Georgia. This gentleman was a psych nurse, good guy, a very smart person, married, Christian fella, had kids, wanted to spend time with his family, and he worked hard as a CEO. He also did some med management, and I leave that with you because it's possible to do some, and I'm going to think maybe 10 hours a week, but I wouldn't try to do 30 or 40 hours of therapy and another 30 or 40 hours of CEO work. Guys, I hope this has been helpful. Be sure to like and share. Be sure to subscribe. Let your other friends in the industry know that there is good counseling for the counselor, or good therapy for the therapist, good business coaching for the business owner. If I can help you guys do that, I'm always happy to do it. Make sure you give me a call. Make sure you reach out by email, and we can meet on Zoom or by Google Meet. Take care. Peace.